Okay, I'm going to do a quick demonstration of some of, but definitely not all of, new features that we've added in the last couple of months or a few months with surfacing in Onshape. So I've got a situation here where I've got two bodies. One of them is a surface here, and the edge of this is being defined from this Bezier curve. Right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a degree 5 curve, and I can bring this back around and have a look at the curvature actually of this while we're here in the sketch. And what I can do is give you a bit of an interactive look at the curvature combs, and you can see as I can pull on these control points, the curvature combs are doing nice things. So I can eyeball this out and get the things going in the way that I want, like that. So having these tools on the Shift C button, or you can right click and show curvature. It's very, very useful for while you're actually modeling. And then I've just simply extruded that to create this face over here. So again, using Shift C, I can have a look at the V curves there, and the U curves are irrelevant because they're underneath. This is just a extrusion. Anyway, I've got one of them over here, and over this side I've got two degree 3 curves, which I've extruded. So they've got a very definite dihedral between them. You can see here they're not tangent. They meet. It's a G0 connection here, along here. And I'm going to loft between them, or put, maybe in another way, between here, a nice surface in between. So, there's a million ways you can do this, and I'll show you one of my favorite ways. So my favorite way is always to use the shortcut keyboard toolbar here. So I've used the S key. I'm going to use a bridging curve. Now a bridging curve is nice because I can do a number of things. I can just build a curve between two positions. I'm going to choose two vertices. But instead I might want to make them tangent or even curvature continuous at that connection point. So in both cases I'm going to make this curvature continuous, and it's going to need a little bit more information. So I can use this edge as a selection as well, and this edge, add this to the selection. And you can see now it puts in that magenta curve there. So it's nice, it's curvature continuous to that, curvature continuous to that. I can choose to manipulate the control points if I like, and you can see how the effect that has on the curve. Effectively what it's done is it's created a degree 5 Bezier spline between here, and these do not have to be planar, as I'm about to show you. So we've got our first curve there. I'll do the same again over here, and this time I'll just choose the point, the vertex and the edge, and then the vertex and the edge, and this is going to put a nice spline in there as well. And I'll do it one more time. I could use the menu for this. I could go down to the toolbar and choose bridging curve. This time I'm going to use this vertex and this curve, but at the other end, instead of matching just to a vertex, I'm going to choose the edge itself and the face that the edge is connected to. And you can see here a really nice thing has happened, is that I have this manipulator on here. I can turn on the manipulators as I need, and what's going to happen is that curve can just be dragged however I like, as long as it's on this edge. And you'll see that the curvature continuity is going to be matched to the face behind it. Now I'll do that one more time. Again, I'm just going to choose the edge and choose the face behind it, and as I manipulate it, that curve is going to stay continuous to that. So I'm going to show the curvature combs of that curve, so you can see the effect of playing with the control points again, and the curvature goes down to 0, as you see there at the end, right, because it's going to match this one. So now that I've got these curves, this gives us a nice grid, or at least a framework to work with to maybe use a loft with guide curves, or we'll try that first. So I'm going to use a loft feature using the surface form of it. I'm going to choose the first profile is going to be this edge. Now, interestingly, and not everyone knows this, but I can expand that selection set to these two edges as that first profile. And the second profile, I'll just use this. So we've got our nice loft. And I'm going to control the end conditions, maybe make them tangent at the end and tangent at the other end like that. Getting close. You can see here those curves though that I just defined at the beginning are something that I might want to add as the guides. So I'm going to choose the 1, 2, 3 curves that we chose, that we created initially to act as guides for this loft. Now, I don't need to in this case, but to show the connections, obviously they're being defined very easily. I can show the ISO curves. They look nice. And we have got this merge setting, so it's going to merge all of this into one body with that one feature. So if I turn off the sketches and turn off the curves, I just use the Shift P shortcut for that. What I was doing is just hiding these curves. I'm left with these surfaces. If I turn off the tangent edges and turn them on hidden like that, you'll see that there's only one edge left other than the boundaries, of course. And this tangent edge is not tangent, until it reaches this point, and then it goes out into a complete tangent space. You can see here, and if I turn off all of the edges in the model, you can start to see where this crease is. And this is typical in a styled situation, and many products would have this kind of hard crease in one area that dissipates into nothing, into nice, completely smooth surface at the other end. Now, there's a lot of ways we can visualize this. We can use just shaded view like this and look at where the breaks in the reflections are occurring. But in fact, there's much better ways to do that. You can use things like a zebra stripe, and you can see if I rotate the model around, you can see where these zebra stripes have a discontinuity. And the discontinuity is where the edge is meeting, the two faces are meeting this edge, whereas not tangent. No, there's a lot of things you could do with this. Maybe up the number of stripes. You can use Shift R to go into high quality rendering mode. You could flip the stripes 90 degrees like this. There's a lot of tools at your disposal just to prove to yourself you've got this nice, sharp, razor sharp edge along here, which is then dissipating out and going completely, at this point down here, we're tangent, and it's nice and smooth across there. So that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is with Gaussian curvature. So that's another of the curvature visualization operations, which is the color map here. And again, the curvature will be, in this case it's curvature, not just tangency we're looking at. And you'll see that there's a definite break across here. So, these tools are interesting. There's a few options. You can look at mean curvature. So this is looking at the average of the curvature in the two principal directions. You can manipulate the scales on this to give you a more detailed view at both ends of the spectrum, so to speak. And then there's another one down here, which is actually a minimum radius. These first ones are actually curvature, which has the unit of inverse length, but minimum radius and maximum radius actually have the units of millimeters, because this is an actual radius here. And one use for this is that you can pull this one down and you can see at what point the tool, or you just run your mouse over it as well here. This is the minimum radius required for kind of like a ball end or some kind of tool that would be required to hog out the material in this area here. So you can see as it gets flatter and really flat out here, the radius gets quite big. And actually at some point, if this is a flat surface, it would say infinity, as that's what a flat surface curvature really is. So there's that, and another really interesting thing with this, and we might want to also look at curvature combs. Curvature combs are again on the, and we can look at it in both directions at the same time, like this. We can add another face to it. using curvature combs is a really important thing to analyze the quality of the surfaces. Now, those reflections and the Gauss curvature column maps are important and key, but I think in terms of accuracy, really seeing what's going on at the boundaries, the combs, and specifically the combs in the direction you're looking at, and then extending them across the next face, this is really where you're going to get the highest level of detail, seeing exactly what's going on. So here you can see these two spikes here, or these comb, they come from the same place. They're actually G0 matched, but they're not tangent. As we know, there's a sharp edge there. And that's why these top of the combs here are not met. They're not consistent. Now, as it goes further down and towards the end, you'll see that they actually start to get closer and closer to meeting there. So again, the tip is use curvature analysis, use the combs, choose the direction you're really interested in, whether it's U or V only, and then allow this option to extend across the face. And in this case, the V direction was the more interesting of the two directions for this one here. Now, the other thing to do with curvature analysis and analysis tools and diagnostics for surfacing is so key. So even on the simple example here, I think you're starting to get that the Shift C is always at my fingertips for doing anything, and it's worth not going too far into the model before really getting what you need from these faces. An interesting one to look at, and we turn off the combs and just leave the control point grid on. Now, the control point grid is basically at the intersection of all these purple lines at here and here and here. This is where the control points for the actual B-splines that make up the surface in both the U direction and the V direction. This is where the control points actually are. So you can get a sense for the quality of the surface based on having a look at where these control points are, how they're distributed. And in this case, that's quite a lot of control points for such a simple situation. And that is the nature of using a loft feature. Right? So there's obviously, there's the reason for doing this video, there's obviously another way to do it. So let's turn back on our edges so that we can see what we're doing again. I'll turn back on all the tangent edges, and I'll roll back before the loft. So now we just have the original surfaces, which I'll turn off there, and these three curves that we defined using the bridging curve feature. One way to do this, and there's another few different ways you could do it, but I'm going to use a boundary surface. You can find that up here as well. Boundary surface, there it is. So a boundary surface takes two sets of profiles, in the U direction and the V direction. So in some sense, it's a little bit like a loft, except the guides and the profiles are kind of irrelevant. The direction you choose it's impervious to that. So I'm going to choose this direction, this curve here, and I'm going to use, just to show you something else, I'm going to use the sketch itself. I'm going to use the edge of the sketch, not the edge of that surface, for that one, and I'm going to use the edge of the sketch for that direction. All right, so it's done this curve all the way along. It's chosen the whole length of the curve. For the V profiles, I'm going to use these two bridging curves that we defined before. Now, I'm going to go back to those first profiles and say, I want you to be tangent, and it's going to ask me what do you want to be tangent to? So I'm actually going to select here and choose the face. So it now knows how to be tangent. If we'd chosen the edge of that face, it would have automatically picked that up. But I'm just showing you a kind of newish thing which allows you to select edges that aren't actually, or sketches that aren't actually the laminar edge of that particular face. So here again, it's going to be questioning me as to which face do you want me to be tangent to, and it's going to be that one. All right. So that's one boundary surface, and let's do the same thing again. Let's do it with my shortcut key because that's what I like to do. Again, I'm going to use the sketch in that direction and the sketch in this direction, and it's going to have some problems overlapping until we really finish this off. So I'm going to choose the boundary curve there and the curve in the middle there. And just like before, I'm going to make it tangent. It's going to ask me where to. There it is. And in this case, we'll make it tangent where to. Choose this face. Now, there's a lot of selections that can add up, so it's worthwhile, just keeping your focus by collapsing or expanding the particular area of the user interface that you might be in. Show the ISO curves on that. So it looks kind of similar, right? And if I turn off the sketches using the Shift P and maybe then go back to the no edges, we have the same situation where we've got the nice sharp crease that's dissipating out into nothing. And we could use all the same techniques from before of the zebra stripes and so on and so forth to prove that. But what is really interesting in this case, if I go back to the curvature analysis, which is either Shift C or right click and say curve surface analysis, look at the control points this time. There's much more sparse. And if you count them up, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 segments in this direction, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 segments in this direction. Now this happens to match exactly with the number of segments or degree of the underlying sketches that I'd used in the first place. Remember, this bridging curve was a degree 5 spline that we created in here, so was this one. And the boundary surface is very, very good. The boundary surface is very, very good at picking up that exactly. So the control points, yeah, exactly, are much more sparse, or much less overdone compared to the loft. And the same thing over down here. If we have a look at the other face that we created, the control points have that nice sparse outlook. And this is more what you are aiming for high quality surfaces. The mantra is always use as simple math as possible while still getting the shape of the surface that you obviously need. And the simple math as possible, I mean that by that I mean use something that creates as fewer control points as possible. And now the final part of this is that these curves and the techniques that I've used to create this are quite flexible. If we go back to this bridging curve in the middle, you can see I've rolled back essentially, or just gone back in time to edit that. Now Onshape has this really fantastic feature which allows you to hit finalize. For wherever the feature you're editing, it will regenerate everything else that comes after it. And it'll allow me to continue to edit this, and I can see it'll dynamically update that curve, but it's also regenerating the surfaces, both those boundary surfaces that came after it. And even better than that is if I put the curvature analysis back on, I'm going to put curvature combs on here, and maybe have them updated, the curvature comb in the middle. So I could be looking at the magnitude of these curves, or the position of this curve. In fact, there's one other operation I can do with this bridging curve, which is to change the angle at which it comes off this edge, this reference edge down the bottom here. So I can control the position along the edge, but also the angle, kind of like the launch angle from it. So you've got a lot of control, and that curve will remain curvature continuous to this this face here as well. So as soon as I hit OK on that, we've got our updated design. So a bunch of techniques, I guess, rolled into there, using bridging curves, understanding how bridging curves can be as simple as straight lines between two vertices, as all the way up to a degree 5 Bezier curve. They're dynamic. You can manipulate these on the fly. You can put curvature analysis in all sorts of ways. You can use curvature combs. You can turn on and off control point grids at the same time. You can have this on dynamically during the time you're editing a feature. And then there's a whole bunch of operations and options you've got for the final visualization, like the zebra stripes or the color maps, or things like Gaussian curvature, or minimum curvature, minimum radius of curvature, those sorts of things. So that's utilizes a few of the new features as well as a couple of old ones, and so lots to dig into in Onshape surfacing.